an exception to our usual rule in that the Arizona Raptor Experience, they're a Chino Valley-based nonprofit. What are you all? Both. Basically, it's a 4-H project gone awry, and so they do. No offense. Anyway, we love these folks, and it's hard to find people that know birds. This is a major place. We are on the migratory pattern. You will see more hummingbirds, more different types of birds as they travel north and south. It's amazing. And it's more than I can teach. So when I don't know a lot about the subject, I invite others that do know to come in and teach for me. So that's what they're here for. Also, these birds, I want to know how many pounds of food, of meat, of mice, these birds eat a year. Do you know, or is it per month?
We have 3 eagles and 14 non-eagles. They eat approximately a ton of food.
All time, 2,000 pounds in a year.
All of them together collectively, yes. 40 pounds a week. We try to maintain animals that are not only great to look at and almost physically perfect, most of them are. They're trained like athletes and kept in that condition, but they also have to have a natural history component to them for the messages that we choose to take to our public. So the first visitor that we have this morning is one of the smallest cavity nesters in Arizona and in North America. Some of you may have recognized it, this little bird. Normally, if I was in school, I would ask the kids what it is. But because of our time constraint, we're just going to kind of walk through this. At some point, if you have a question, a who, what, or why statement, raise your hand and we'll try to answer it for you. If we don't have an answer, we'll get it to you. So this little bird, some of you probably know as the saw-whet owl. The saw-whet owl. The saw-whet owl gets its name from its caw. 100 years ago, our forebears used crosscut saws to cut trees. Today we use mostly chainsaws, right? Well, if you run a whetstone or a file across a large 2-man crosscut saw, it makes a particular sound. Evidently, that bird resembles the sound of sharpening a saw. So saw-whet is actually spelled with an H, W-H-E-T, means to sharpen, right? You think of a whetstone. Saw-whet owls are really delightful little birds. Remarkably, that little bird weighs about 2 ounces. Not much more than maybe a chicken egg, thereabouts. But understand that if you have birds of prey on your property, A, you've done something very good. You're giving them the needs: space, shelter, water in some cases, and food. Very, very important. Those 4 things really determine the wildlife that you'll have in your yard. Now that little bird, I believe was hit by a car. I'll just give you a quick overview of why we have some of these birds. So was the saw-whet owl. Understand that these little owls are preyed upon by bigger owls. How many here have great horned owls in your neighborhood? It's interesting. The females have the deeper voice, guys. The males have a little bit higher pitched voice, like this. Remember High Pitch Eric on Howard Stern radio show? So that's one way that you can actually sexually identify great horned owls. There's a little, you can impress your friends at elk camp, okay? At night around the campfire, you'll hear them calling back and forth. Right now, though, great horned owls are on, if they're not on young, they're finishing up egg laying. Great horned owls are essentially the first and earliest nesting bird in North America. Great horned owls are so ferocious and rapacious, they have literally been known to bump golden eagles. Moses, pardon the noise. So golden eagles and bald eagles are sometimes displaced from their nest by great horned owls. They are bad news. Have any of you seen the new movie that's out, The Eagle Huntress? Have any of you seen that? You have, of course, Richard. It was filmed in Mongolia. She's 13 years old, the youngest female, and the only girl, not only young, but the only girl to ever be allowed to train. She captured a wild golden eagle in Mongolia and train it and hunt with it. And actually, it's an incredible movie. You have to see it. But you're going to see some of the techniques that I'm using also used in the Eagle Huntress movie, which was filmed in Mongolia. It's an amazing thing. But most importantly, falconry is 4,000 years old. It predates the birth of Christ by 2 millennia. You think about that. Wow, way before the invention of gunpowder and human overpopulation, people hunted with birds of prey to provide them with a new source of fresh meat. Okay, that said, I want to share with you Emily. Emily is a Swainson's hawk. This is her 2nd year. She has a juvenile plumage and also subadult plumage. She's going into, this summer will be her 3rd birthday, right? Second birthday, but her 3rd plumage change. Plumage is a word that is the collective feather count on a bird, and it changes the first 2 or 3 years. Many of us as ornithologists or banders, researchers, can actually age a bird its first 3 years, or 5 years if it's a bald eagle, by the feather coloration, and in some cases the feather wear on the tail and wings and so forth. Swainson's hawks are really neat birds. They're found in Chino Valley in good numbers. Why is that? Because Chino Valley has a lot of horse farms. It's blessed with still tall, grassy meadows, which are ideal nurseries for insects and mice and songbirds. And all those horse farms and all those horse apples and cow droppings have uneaten grain in them that the little critters and rodents and so forth consume, which in turn is consumed by these predators, okay? So you have this wonderful food chain. But I want you to be aware that all is not good in the world of wildlife. Here in Arizona, if you're sitting down, most of you are, you might be blown away to know that 150 people a day are moving into Arizona. Now, the local cheerleaders at the Chamber of Commerce, rah, this is great stuff. This is income and development. The problem is the development. Arizona is losing an acre of desert every hour, 24/7, 365 days a year. That's just desert alone. Here in the United States, we are adding 2 people a minute to the U.S. population. That means that we're losing approximately, according to photogrammetric surveys and so forth, satellite imaging surveys, we're losing about 6,000 acres of forest and open space a day in the United States. In the 35 years that I have been preaching and lecturing and soapbox politicking, I have always tried to make people aware of the inverse relationship between human population increase and the rapid decline of biodiversity. We need to start making the recognition that humans are the problem, and we begin to fix it. We have a chance at preserving species for our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
How did you get removed?
Pardon?
How did you get removed?
Emily came from a rehabilitator in Utah. Emily, in a nutshell, was stolen from the wild by a quote-unquote falcon. And it was against law to take Emily in Utah. In some parts of the Southwest, Swainson's hawks are on the decline due to habitat loss and, again, it's all human stuff. Pesticides, big problem. We are everything that pesticides and rodenticides. In Argentina, where this bird overwinters right now, they don't have the environmental regulations that we do. And they're good for this reason. Between Argentina, where they overwinter, and the United States, where they breed in the summertime, you've got this big chasm of human activity going on. And we now know that in habitats where pesticides are reduced, where the habitat loss through overpopulation through development is curtailed, you will have more of these species. So she was taken from the wild by somebody who wanted to hunt with her illegally. He kept her wrong, and he imprinted her. She was a baby, you understand, taken from a nest. When you do that without special knowledge and training, the birds will always see you as their lifeline. She will never take another Swainson's hawk, ever. So the rehabilitator who knows me well says, I'd rather see her go to you. I've flown imprinted red-tailed hawks for 35 years. They're nut job. They're loopy, folks. They're goofy. They can be dangerous if you don't know how to read them correctly. And so I said, no problem. I love imprinted birds. You can't lose them. They're like a ping pong ball. They always bounce back to you. And so she is going to be flown for falconry. She hasn't killed much yet. She loves catching and killing rats. I'd love to see her take rabbits and jackrabbits. But she's a great role model when she's not out hunting and following us around in the desert.
You did. Okay.
Little guy back here.
Makes a lean horse and an empty car.
It's okay. No,
She's a nice girl.
okay. Isn't that cool? Look at that big bird you got up there.
I want to ask her, it's too scary.
Ask her again.
Oh, can you follow
You
that?
can ask. You just held that big bird. You can ask.
Good job. Good job, honey. You're doing great.
You can. No fear.
We've got to call it.
Can you do it again?
I can't. There's too many people that want to do it.
But we can come again.